Joining us now, Barbara Comstock. It's always good to have Barbara on the show. Former Congresswoman, 10th District, Virginia, and she lost her opportunity to serve a third term to Jennifer Wexton, the Democrat, in 2018 when the Democrats took the House back for Nancy Pelosi. Barbara, great to have you.
Good morning. Great to be with you, John.
Now, Barbara, life out of politics. You've been in politics a long time, but you've also done the mom thing, right? Because you have the children, you had weddings to deal with, your daughter got married when you were in Congress. You had all that stuff dealing with, and I know you're very close to your family. So life after politics for Barbara Comstock, what's it like?
Well, I've been in and out, of the private sector before. When I left Congress, when I worked in Congress and was in the Justice Department, I was out in the private sector. So I'm now out at my law firm, Baker Donaldson, which is Howard Baker's old law firm. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful firm that I've known for a long time. So I was thrilled to be able to join them. So I started there in January and have settled in. I also was able to teach at the Harvard Institute of Politics, which is a wonderful institution. Just had a great experience there with the students. Some other folks who were there at the same time, Andrew Gillum, the Democrat who, ran for governor in Florida. My colleague from Florida, Carlos Curbelo. Turns out Carlos and Andrew were friends, and a number of other folks there that are just, everybody kind of goes through there. And you get these wonderful interns. And yes, there are Republicans at Harvard, not a lot of them, but they're a hearty bunch. And so that was delightful too. And I'm starting up this summer my Young Women's Leadership Program at George Mason University, where it's going to be housed at the Schar School of Policy and Government. It's a program that I'd had for 6 years. I started actually when I was a delegate that we did every summer, and now we're starting that up, our first summer, and going to be getting out the information for applications shortly, I think this week. And then it's also, we plan on evolving that into a program for women of all ages. It'll be the Barbara Comstock program for women in leadership. So kept busy, the grandkids are doing great, and, enjoying being able to serve. I'm, on boards working on a lot of the issues that I worked on before, Human Trafficking Board, Just Ask Prevention, which is a great one here in Northern Virginia, and Veterans Against Alzheimer's is another effort I'm working on. I serve on a bank board, and I'm really focused on helping our women candidates, too. So that's something I just heard Jill Vogel's ad, and definitely keeping in touch with Jill, making sure she's reelected, and got an opportunity to meet with quite a few of our great House of Delegate women that we have running this year.
So, Barbara, I kind of forgot you were a lawyer, right? I just kind of forgot that.
Yes.
And
so I've been in a law firm before, and now I'm back at Baker, and so get to work on a lot of. I'm actually working on a whole data center project across the country. Virginia is the number one state for data centers. Mm-hmm. We are a model, to the rest of the country, and I've been testifying across the country. We passed a bill already in Indiana, like Virginia's, so it's a great way to kind of spread the prosperity, too.
So is there a political future for Barbara Comstock?
Well, I know, we've known each other since I've been elected, but I did have a long life before that. And really kind of, over the years, I've always told that when I ran for delegate, it was very accidental, because when Speaker Howell had called me and Frank Wolf had called me, I really hadn't ever thought about running for office. I had worked in government, and I had always thought myself more working in it, being appointed to things, but not running myself. And Speaker Howell announced it in front of a group, and I kind of, accidentally, he thought I had already decided. So that's how I ended up running. So I was at Harvard, and people had asked, I said, I haven't planned anything since my wedding, or actually my daughter's wedding, although she did more of that than I did. So I think the unplanned life is is more fun and adventurous. And so as great opportunities come up, I jump in, and I'm enjoying a lot of different things now, and helping other women get elected right now is a big priority for me.
Barbara, is there any way that you would be potentially cajoled into running for U.S. Senate against Mark Warner in 2020?
Oh, I've talked to some other people who are interested, and so I think I'm going to be, working in the, in the private sector and helping other people for now.
Okay, you got it. So let's talk about Virginia politics. Republicans have lost, I think, 15 statewide races in a row. They've got 3 tarnished state office holders. The Democrats now, they can't even go to their annual. It was called the Jefferson Dinner. Now I don't know what it's called, gala or something. They took Jefferson out of the name for whatever reason. So I'm going to be doing that dinner. We always do that live. But how do Republicans win a statewide office in Virginia again after losing 15 straight? Well, what do they have to do?
Well, I think you always have to concentrate on what's before you. And right now we have to hold the House is my focus, in State House, in the Senate, because we have 1 vote margins in both of them. So, you have to build from the ground up, and that's the most important mission right in front of us. So I always think it's too, a year is a lifetime in politics. So you have to, to do the job in front of you and get that done and work on our issues. And some of these women that I've had the opportunity to get together with and see their campaigns, they're just really impressive. Like people like Carrie Coyner, who's running in the Riley Ingram seat. She's been serving as chairwoman of her school board, has kids in public school. She's an attorney, speaks Spanish, UVA graduate and University of Richmond lawyer, and it's just been very involved in her community. And she is just, an ideal candidate who's just grounded in her community. And same, in the O'Bannon seat, we have Mary Margaret Castleberg, same thing, lifelong resident of Henrico, a Princeton grad, a rower. So this is someone who can go the distance, a Darden business graduate who's a finance person. How great would that be to have in the House of Delegates? And that seat, we know, has been a Republican seat, and it's open now. So it's a great opportunity to get somebody, again, who's, so grounded in her community and charities and philanthropy. And Shannon Kane, who's in the Villanueva seat down there, who is on the city council already. So she knows all the issues about economic development and flooding and dealing with their schools, and really knows all these issues in the community and is living it and breathing it already. And then we have, quite a few other candidates who I think are really going to, they're out knocking on doors. They're just, and that's how, I loved doing that when I was in the House of Delegates. And the House of Delegates gives you such an opportunity to serve your community like no other. And this class that came in 2 years ago, they didn't get any bills passed, really. They haven't done much. These people are more who want to be celebrities out there running around the country or running around the state and not being really grounded in the community. So I think we have a great opportunity to pick up these seats. And then you're going to have people like Randy Minshew up here. I am confident is going to get his seat back. DJ Jordan, who's in Prince William, and also gal who's running against Danica Rome, Kelly McGinn, very plugged in with her community. Ian Lovejoy in Manassas, fabulous candidate who is a door-knocking machine and already on the city council. So again, these are people who really want to serve their communities. And that's the way we win this, is year by year. And so I think this year is to build back and to build up, to be focusing on those kitchen table issues, and then that gives us better opportunities next year and after.
We're with Barbara Comstock, former member of U.S. Congress, Republican 10th District in Virginia. That's the Northern Virginia area. She was kind of the last person standing Republican in Northern Virginia. She was defeated for re-election in November by Democrat State Senator Jennifer Wexton. That seat not likely to go back to the Republicans, Barbara, in my lifetime. Well, I got to tell you, for somebody that's out of the public political eye, you certainly know what's going on with all these candidates, Barbara. I mean, you're pretty much dialed in. Okay, give me some advice, right? Let's turn the tables.
Listen, you got the Democrats don't. I mean, the press. Now, I know you have stayed on it, but it is just such a travesty to have, Ralph Northam, this black-faced twosome that we have in the state, in our government, and then Justin Fairfax. I can tell you, at Harvard, one of my students came to me when that story, the first story broke. He said, "I knew that woman. I know her." He goes, this guy was conservative, but they were friends, and she's very liberal. He said, "She is an honest person. She's, I believe her." And this is someone who is very left wing. The woman who accused him certainly didn't want to do harm to the Democratic Party, and that our Democrats, particularly the Democrat women, are sitting on the sidelines and not allowing an investigation. And they're going to let an alleged rapist sit there for 3 years. I mean, when I saw that, I talked to some of my colleagues down there. I said, I can't imagine having to sit there as a woman in that seat. My friend Jill Vogel having to sit there while that person presides over the Senate in Virginia. I just think that is a huge tragedy. And Ralph Northam can't be seen anywhere. And I hate the vision of Virginia that he, what I said to Harvard and everyone that I've talked to is this isn't the Virginia that any of us have known. Mm-hmm. In 1984, Doug Wilder was running for lieutenant governor in the Democratic Party. So what, Ralph Northam, to say, oh, this is how Virginia was, that isn't how Virginia was. And it's never been the Virginia that I've raised my family in and known. So Virginia's been very progressive in terms of, our economy. You look at all of our historical associations around Virginia, and they have been long working to include the African American experience in them and women, and that's people who work so hard, and to have Ralph Northam upend that and then lecture up. I mean, this is a man last year who was running around talking about moral authority when it turns out the emperor had no clothes. So I just think it's terrible that this is what we have to sit with for 3 years, and Democrats are ignoring it.
Well, it was the Democrats.
The press would never ignore this for a Republican. It would be an everyday occurrence, and you couldn't walk out of your door if you're a Republican and answer a Ralph Northam or Justin Fairfax or Mark Herring question every single day of your life. But the press has gone away and said, never mind. We just figured out that number 4 is Kirk Cox, and so we don't want to talk about it anymore.
That's exactly what happened. I mean, you have a governor that has to come and go from the governor's mansion, through a tunnel. That's why we call them governor tunnels. That's completely ridiculous. So that's number one. Second thing we got going on is the Republicans under Kirk Cox have 3 ways. So Wednesday offered the women, the alleged victims, a hearing in the House of Delegates. They offered Justin Fairfax due process, and they went to Eileen Filler-Corn, head of the Democratic House, and offered her any number of different scenarios to make this happen. She turned them all down because they just want to look the other way.
That's all about keeping power, and I'm really disappointed in Eileen Filler-Corn because we had worked together on things. We started the House Arts Caucus together, and we worked on issues together. And to see her just, ignore that in such a blatant way is really sad. And I think that's why I think our women, you talk about moral authority, I think our women are going to be able to come in and speak truth to these power wannabes and say there are things that are more important. I mean, when I was dealing with the sexual harassment issue in Congress and I passed legislation on that front, we were nonpartisan, bipartisan. we called out, I called out everybody. Everyone I called out, Republicans and Democrats, to leave and hit the door on those issues. And, if I wasn't out there criticizing every single one of them, the press was on me. But I looked at each of those cases and called on people to resign when those things came. And so for Eileen Fillercorn to look at the serious accusations, those interviews were very, they are backed up. They have a lot more information than a lot of the other accusations that were out there and are a lot more serious. These were violent rapes. This was somebody who was manipulative. It's very frightening. And you know what's so interesting about this? Because I've asked people who've worked with Justin Fairfax and know him, said there is nobody defending him. The silence of nobody defending him tells you a lot, too. The Democrats don't really know him, or if they do, they know it's not good. And there's nobody coming to his defense. And certainly and usually in these situations, if there's anything wrong there are people coming forward, people who knew him for a long time. And he has a campaign. His campaign manager is up here running someone else's campaign, and she won't talk to the press. The press leaves her alone. Nobody has said, gee, isn't this strange that his female campaign manager won't talk to the press about Justin Fairfax? She teaches at Georgetown. It's all out there, and the press ignores it. To have that person presiding over the state Senate for 2.5 more years is unacceptable.
Well, I think he deserves due process, but I also think the women, the victims, the alleged victims, deserve to have their day. And all they asked for was the ability to testify about what happened and give their story in front of the elected officials. And Eileen Fillercorn refused it. So the Democrats have a lot to answer for here, Barbara. But I tell you what, the hypocrisy is beyond the pale.
Yeah, and speaking of Democrats too, because I know he's run there too. That Joe Morrissey, he was a predator when he was in the House of Delegates. We had to warn the girls to stay away from him. And I say, if Rosalind Stantz was a lovely woman to work with, I think a great senator. And if he gets that nomination and the Democrats aren't out denouncing him, that is another, real hypocrisy there that is just unacceptable. He is not somebody who should be serving in office at all.
Well, Barbara, now, wait a second. I know I got to go, but I'm going to defend my friend Joe Morrissey. I don't know what Joe's past was, but people change and people get reformed, and they find the church and they do various things. And Joe married Myrna. He did the right thing. They have 4 beautiful children. You go in their home like my wife Ann and I do. There's love. There's laughter. There's 4 little kids running around. They have a great marriage, fabulous family.
Well, there's a long history before that, that when you have somebody, a fine woman like Senator Dance, I know that's a very Democrat district, and Republicans, I would imagine, don't have a shot at it, but I can't imagine that they would, whatever, that's between him and God. He can reform, but I don't think that's somebody that I'd like to see for our daughters, in there with Justin Fairfax. I think that would be a real tragedy.
Well, I don't think it's got anything to do with Fairfax. He never got accused of what Justin did, Barbara, so I think you're being harsh. But let me make this.
No, I'm talking about the misogyny and his long history.
Well, he's never been married, right? He dated people. Okay, so what? He's never been married. And, people make their choices, but now he is married and he has a family. But I'm going to make this prediction, Barbara, right on the air. Morrissey's going to win that race, and he's going to get elected. He's going to serve in the state Senate. And I think he'll take his responsibilities with his constituents very seriously. Plus, Barbara, he's pro-life. Can't say that about Roz.
No, he has never voted. He never voted that way.
Sure
when
he
was,
did. Sure, he's pro-life.
If he's voting that way, that's a new story that I haven't heard of. He was somebody who the Democrats wouldn't defend in the House of Delegates, and really people should have. Like I said, we had to warn the interns to stay away from him.
Oh,
and
come on,
we probably
Barbara.
should have been much more and preying upon your staff or young interns is not something that should go on in the Virginia General Assembly.
Well, there's no evidence of that anything like that went on, and the one incident he had, he did his time and he married Myrna, and they got 4 wonderful children. So I think that's harsh judgment. Plus, he's a good Catholic, Barb. Come on. John Fredericks Radio Network. Catholics got to stick together, Barbara.
Yeah, a disbarred attorney with a lot of sordid record behind him. So
well, he's going to win.
The violence incidents, and you know the long story. There's
I know
a long
the story, but
there,
I believe in.
And the Democrats are going to have to answer for that if that's who they want to have as a standard.
They don't have to answer for it. His constituents have to answer for it. Barbara, his constituents are going to make that decision. The voters of the 16th that come out. But look, Barbara, I believe in redemption. We're out of time for this segment. I really want to thank you for being with us today